Hello, wonderful universe. It's Jennifer here, Eureka Astrology and Healing, and today we are talking about the Sagittarius new moon. The Sagittarius new moon is on November 23rd, 2022 at 4:57 p.m. Before we get into it, let's talk about the notables of the astrological weather. And let's just say first and foremost, today I'm going to say it is, as I'm filming this, it is the Taurus full moon eclipse. It is the day of the election, and I'm sure as many of you know or watching, if you follow astrology at all, or even don't, it's a big day, and not just for America. But I don't know what's going to happen at the end of this day, but I do feel like the Sagittarius new moon is going to be a continuation of, not in a bad way, but like it's going to maybe bring about truth, information, freedom, questions of freedom, that happened from this election. I think it's going to be a continuation of energy, a new form, but a continuation. And I am curious as myself to see what unfolds, but I will not make no predictions for that. But now, back to the notables. I want to say is exhale. We made it through the eclipse season. Most of us did. I know not everyone does. And I do believe, though, in transformation for those souls who have passed in this time of the eclipses, but as Scorpio represents, but most of us made it, right? When things get hard, when we're asked to let things go, it seems like we're going to maybe die, right? A part of us is there's a death, and it can be scary because it's new and unknown, but it's transformation. And I just wanted to remind everybody of that, and remember to breathe, because then you bring life into the transformation. And know that whatever you've gone through in this eclipse season, and I know there's been some serious stuff. I have been working with people. There has been serious things for many people in my life, and myself included. But it's a transformation, and you can get through it. Just give yourself time and space and kindness. And in that season too, we had that Scorpio season, these eclipses. There were so many planets in Scorpio. So I truly believe that many people have been asked to let go of things, beliefs, relationships, maybe even physical things. It's different for everyone, but it was okay to let it go. It was time for whatever needed to go, even if it did not seem comfortable at the time or wanted. Moving on to the next notable. I just want to say it briefly is that the last 2 years, Saturn and Uranus, right, the planet of stability and order and structure, and Uranus, kind of total opposite, like change, dynamic, just like I just think of electricity, right? Like radicalness, freedom, the unknown, heaven making squares, tensions to each other. One wants structure, one doesn't want structure, one wants the new, the next thing that's supposed to come through. They've been squaring each other off and on slowly for the last 2 years in the fixed signs of Aquarius, Saturn Aquarius, and Uranus and Taurus. They're slowly parting ways. I mean, they're only 3 degrees apart, which is not a massive amount, but the pressure is kind of coming off. The transformation's not over, but again, there's another pressure kind of being taken off of us. There's going to be work after the restructure. Uranus will demand the restructure, and it's not out of Taurus yet, but just a little bit of another area we can breathe in. The next notable, there are 5 planets and then the sun and the moon as well in mutable signs. So that is a lot of change, right? We just dropped a lot of things, let something go. There's some pressure off of us, but in a way of releasing things. But now we're being asked to change, to go with the flow. And that's key for this new moon and Sagittarius season in general. But because there's so much mutable energy, we need to just go, okay, this is what's being asked of you now. Obviously, not if you're in danger, if it's not good for your highest good, but it might be something you don't like and it's not necessarily bad for you, but you just don't like it. Go with it. Or even just to have faith and trust, be flexible, because that is the energy. That's it. Fixed energy is almost all gone. Not completely, but we were in such a fixed energy, which is good. It was making us hold to our space and really think about things, become accountable. Now it's about going with the flow. And then last but not least, of course, Sagittarius season. We've got the sun and the moon there for the new moon, right? They're side by side. Always remember that. That's what a new moon is. They're conjunct. And then we also have Venus and Mercury in Sagittarius. So It is not a complete full house, but it's a pretty full house right now with all these planets and the sun and the moon there. So the themes of freedom, truth, exploration, philosophy, travel, these are going to come up. Higher learning, higher knowing. Those are the overarching theme of the day. And of course, for the whole Sagittarius season, but it's going to be particularly strong on this new moon. And to move into, as I've been doing recently, Raven Calder's names for the moons, the specific moons, their specific energy. This is the Sagittarius new moon. I adapted the name slightly just to be considerate, and I call it the Wandering Moon or the Wanderer's Moon. And again, it's a young moon. This is at 1 degree. This new moon is at 1 degree, so at the very start. It's not at 29 degrees where Sagittarius is a seasoned traveler and the avid philosopher and scholar. Like this is somebody who just put their foot on the path, right? This is someone who just cracked open the book. It's the beginning of it all. So there's an excitement about this new moon, right? Like what's next? All this stuff has just happened in these eclipses. What's next? It might be scary, but in Sagittarius, it is down for the adventure, right? What am I going to do? What am I going to learn here? What's going to open my mind and be open to all the possibilities? Because what this wanderer does is it travels out into the world to really kind of like crack open its mind, crack open its beliefs, because we stay in the same place. If we live in the same place all our lives, we can read a book, we can do this, that, and the other, but you don't get the experience, you don't get the immersion, you don't get the feelings and the senses of going into, say you're from Florida and you stayed in Florida, say you're in rural Florida, you grew up on a farm, you went to a small school, you stayed there, and that culture, that one that you're in. The foods, the sounds, the plants, the weather, and you get into this pattern and rhythm and it's stable and that world. But then all of a sudden you go to Nepal and there's something that's calling, right? Like the world is now too small for you and you need to know more, or you're being called to know more than what you know, because you could say, well, this is where I live, this is what I know, this is all there is, and what I know is right and true, right? Very Sagittarius, they're very kind of set in their beliefs. If it's when not, they're not being flexible, and like my belief is my belief, and everyone else's beliefs are not true, and they need to believe what I believe. What's being called of in this person, if they go to another country, it's like, whoa, there is different religion, there are different practices, there are different social norms, there are different foods, there's different weather, there's different plants, and then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, they're living but totally different than I am living. And that's what this wanderer does, and this is what this new moon is asking us to do, is to be open our mind, open our heart to other things, that there are other ways of being. And even if it's uncomfortable or foreign and you may not even like it or believe it, but it's still somebody else's. And instead of judging and saying things, like the wanderer doesn't say anything, their goal is to fit in as best as they can, meaning they partake if they need to, and not cast judgment while they're in that someone else's home, right? Someone else's situation. But in doing so, it opens up the world for them, and it opens up the thoughts and the possibilities, and it makes people, I want to say, a little, hopefully, more humble. Let this time be a time of being humble in who we are and graceful in accepting other ways of being, instead of fighting, instead of disagreeing. Where can we just go, okay, I will leave you as you are. Please leave me as I am. And eventually we will have to work together, right? This is a global community, but work with us. Now, the more challenging side of this moon is that the wanderer gets really excited to keep on wandering, right? Like, I'm not staying here too long. This was fun, but it's kind of feeling like home now. And I want to keep pushing the envelope. Okay, push, push, push. But what happens is sometimes they want to leave because maybe they're in a situation that they created that's not so fun anymore. Maybe they're asking to be accountable for what they're doing in this new place. Maybe they're bored. And what can happen is they can either burn a bridge, which, maybe they need to go back and now they can't go back. Or they run away from a conflict that they maybe started, but they just like, well, whatever, I don't have to go back there. But it's not helping them learn to cope. And it's also kind of giving them the thrill of the new without fully absorbing what they have learned. So key themes also in this new moon is if something arises where you're doing something new or you're asked, you feel like I need to leave this situation because I need to, open my horizons, open my world. Are you leaving a situation because it's time to open your world and view? Or is it because you don't want to cope with something? So ask yourself this because that is a theme that potentially may come up. Now, let's go into some of the aspects. So that's the overall arcing theme. I have a little mixture of aspects and interpretations of Sabian symbols mixed in because this is an interesting new moon and I feel like there is a story, but that it's not 100% cohesive. Sometimes I'll like look at all these things and it's just like, boom, there it is. This one is a little bit dappled here and there, as I imagine Sagittarius would do, because Sagittarius likes to taste the variety of life. So as I said, we have all of these planets in Sagittarius. What overarching theme? Freedom, flexibility, going into the unknown, truths. And as like I said, I'm on the day of the election here, and I feel like the truth part is gonna be a thing. I think it's gonna be something that's going to be asked for, and I'm gonna have a few aspects and things that I want to weave in with that because I feel like there's some accountability that's going to be asked of, and it's going to be asked from by the people. I mean, I'm sure that it'll be asked by higher structures of people in higher authority, but like it's already happening. People are standing up for themselves saying no more, right? No more. And it's not, it's not a politician. It is the everyday person, and it's all around the world. But I'm going to go into the Sabian symbol first for the new moon. It's at 1 degree. Like I said, it's just like a little infant, traveler, but it's excited and it's ready to go. The key word for this the book that I use is reminiscence. And it was having these soldiers sitting around a campfire kind of talking and looking back at all they've done, right? Like the wanderer, the traveler, the hero's journey. What have they done and what have they learned? And just kind of ruminating, but like in a good way too, like what has been done and what can I use this information for? And that can be really good because this information that's coming up can be like, how can we make a better future from these experiences, right? How do I want to move forward? How do you want to move forward? How do you want to move forward with the things that have happened in these eclipses this year, right? We're heading close to a new year, but this is kind of being like, what are you taking with you? You dropped stuff, but what are you taking with you from these lessons? Now, the harder part of the Sabian symbol is that these soldiers may potentially look back to the past and be like, idealizing a situation that was just really not something you should be idealizing, right? There was lessons to be learned, but really it wasn't that good. It could have been something really horrible, but they're like, oh, but it was just, I mean, I have some experience in my life where, there's parts of it that were fun, and then you just kind of push aside all the crap that came with it and just kind of remember the fun part. Try to remember the crap part of these situations because you don't want to move forward with something that you only think was fun but was not actually all that fun, and maybe not all that good to bring forward into the future either, right? And so that kind of brings back to Saturn and Aquarius, like we're changing our structures, like where you have got to let it go. Do not bring the old, outdated, crumbling, not serving to the actual good, highest good of most people structure. Let it go. Do not bring it with us. Do not venerate it. So I feel like those themes are going to be coming up, especially because that's the new moon. Like, okay, that system actually sucks. Like, let it go. Like, why are we like idealizing something that, in America, I think the Constitution and our founding fathers had noble ideas, but they excluded pretty much everybody who wasn't a white male. So that's really not ideal for most people and not me. And I think that you can have some core energies that are positive, but we need to really rewrite that. And then the next Sabian symbol that I looked at was for Mars, because Mars is retrograde, and so Mars gets a little frustrated, and I just thought I had a calling to really see what's up with Mars and this symbol and representation. And when I looked at it, I was like, that's pretty dead on to how I feel, what might be coming through. in the collective. Remember, these are all things that can be brought into your life too. I'm doing a larger scale, but remember, this is also happening in the microcosm, your day-to-day life. It just may look different. So like, again, what are you looking into the past that you might be going like, that's awesome, that's great, even though it was not good. But you could also be looking to the past and going, this is what I'm going to take from this. This is a wise lesson and making a better future. So with Mars, it's in Gemini, it's retrograde, and it's not making exact aspects because, you know, Gemini and Sagittarius are opposed to any of these planets, but soon these planets are all going to be opposing Mars, and I think things are going to be triggered, you know, in the weeks to come here once that happens. So just take note of that kind of being laid down for the groundwork. But Mars was an interesting one. It's 21 degrees, and it was called a labor demonstration. Sound familiar? What's going on in the world? How much demonstration there is against oppression, right? Labor is about being honored, respected, valued, treated fairly, kindly, equal pay, all those things. But, you know, we know this goes deeper than that. And the key word was representation. Now, that's where I was like, okay, like this is, you know, something we need to stop and think about, because we know this is happening. You know it, I know it. If you can turn on a television or your phone, whatever, we're hearing about it on a daily basis. People are demanding equal representation and rights to their bodies, rights to, I consider them human rights. I know, and this is where maybe I'm getting a little stuck in my Sagittarius way, and I should just accept other cultures. But I personally believe, you know, people have the right to do what they need to do with their body as long as they're not harming someone else. Let them, you know, what they want to wear, what they need to do for their health, whatever it is. There's so many ways. Like, let them do what they need to do. And there is not representation for that. And there's not representation within our legal system, our school systems, our medical system. You mean down the line, right? There's a call for representation. And Mars is kind of calling for it. It's going back and it's looking at things and it's like, okay, this isn't getting represented. This is not being represented. And I think things are going to be really getting vocal. People are going to be getting vocal on this. So, I mean, I think that's positive. It doesn't mean that it may always be glamorous. But sometimes the people have to speak up and speak out. And hopefully it's always peaceful. That is my goal in the world. But it is time for us to make this world a better place. And, you know, not to watch these things continue on and on and on and on. There are other positive aspects too with this, but the other hard one that I saw to Mars was actually Mars and Neptune are squaring. Neptune is in Pisces, and that just brings in like what's the illusion here? What was the dream? Was that really a good dream again? Like, or was that a nightmare? You know, so again, it's kind of pulling in like, where's the lies? Where are the illusions? And then of course Saturn's still sitting in Aquarius going, we need to fix this for the collective. We need to reconstruct this, right? And to make a better place for us all, not just the few. And Pluto plays into that aspect as well, into Saturn and Jupiter, but it's positive and it's saying, yeah, we're purging the old. And soon Pluto will be out of Capricorn. How many years? 14 years? 15 years? It will dip back and forth in. It's not going to be final, but it's kind of starting to say its farewells. And it's like, all right, let's really start to wrap this up. What can we finish here? What has to go? Again, inner larger structures. So this is a powerful time. I mean, it's always a powerful time in the world. But I think things are being changed on a really core way here for some of our structures. And I think it's important we take note of that. Be kind to ourselves. I think it's going to be my slogan from now on. Just be kind to ourselves. Be kind to others. And where is your freedom? Right? What is next for you? And do you have faith? And it's time to change and adapt. Those are all key things that I feel like is overall with this. And with that, I want to read a quote from the Raven Calder book for the Sagittarius new moon. He's got many, and I picked one that I feel is fitting. A person often meets his destiny on the road he took to avoid it. Even if you avoid it, it's going to be found. With that, I'm Jennifer at Eureka Astrology and Healing. I hope you're all doing well. If you want a reading, if you want to know more about how this affects your chart particularly, or looking at the year ahead, I do astrological readings. You can go to eurekaastrologyandhealing.com, check out my services, contact me. I'm happy to do so, and I do other consultation services as well. With that, may the plants ground you and the stars guide you.